class on your channel with the Black Nobility video that you did. So when it comes to that, and I knew all this was going on, was about to happen. The American Pope, and then we know that Trump is a double agent, right? Because he's also in bed with the people in Israel, if I'm not mistaken, right? So how does, huh?
He on that list.
So how does that all tie into, you know what I'm saying, like the fall of the old one? Because we know how, you know, how does that all kind of play into now?
Now, you don't remember back in his first presidency, he said, I'm going to save Israel for last. Right? Just because they trying to do business as usual with him, all they doing is trapping themselves. He ain't working for them people. They don't know that though.
Which people?
The Mossad. That's who run Israel.
You said who
the
run
Mossad
Israel?
The Mossad.
Yeah.
So look, the Mossad is a hybrid KGB, CIA, and MI5, MI6. They all got together and had a baby called Mossad. The Mossad is the intelligence agency. It's just like over here, we thought that the people in DC was running the country. None of them senators ever wrote a bill. They all sponsor it. Who the hell writing the bills that they sponsoring? Most of us don't know that the senators only supposed to meet for 6 weeks out the year at the beginning of the year to discuss new business, but they didn't turn it into a full-time job so that they could fleece the people. They only supposed to come together to solve problems in the community, but they coming together to cause them instead. That's why they keep creating all these laws, making everything illegal. So they can put some kind of monetization to it and license it out to people, because remember, they got to make it illegal before they can give you a license, because a license is just permission to do something illegal. All crime is commercial, right? They operating under the color of law, the colorable law, using the uniform commercial system. So they dress in their uniforms for the appearance of legitimacy. All the time, they Machiavellian frauds. It was a good concept and it worked real well until somebody grew up that recognized the people on the land being displaced and said, who doing it? And then you dig behind the scenes and you pull the dirty players out, and now don't nobody believe it because it's so phenomenally basic.
Yeah.
They was looking for a whole bunch of other things to be the contributing factor because of the narratives we've been fed. Everything they taught us was to maintain divide and conquer as crowd control. Right? That's why they want all of you haters to sit on this side and all you players to sit on that side. So now we know who to sick on each other. Democrats on this side, Republicans on that side. Catholics on this side, Christians on that side. Muslims on this side, Hebrews on that side. Now, sick them, everybody. Get the people you don't like that we told you not to like so we can control all of you motherfuckers. The same. Everybody's still thinking that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves with the Emancipation Proclamation. That's not what that means. It don't got nothing to do with freeing nobody from nothing. And emancipation is to transfer ownership from one party to another. We don't know the language, so we think we know what they're talking about. Right? Because we thinking in terms of an emancipated minor. Right? Emancipated minor just moved from a child's capacity to an adult capacity. The Emancipation Proclamation was the public declaration that we're going to take the minority out of slavery so we can put you all in it. The right to own slaves was reserved by the government, not the people. If you put somebody in slavery, they're going to charge you with a crime. But when they do it, it's okay because they licensed to do it, because they got the article, the 14th Amendment, to tell them that once they duly convict you of a felony, that they can make you be forced into involuntary servitude. Then they hyper create crime by minimizing the financial outreach that the people was allowed to control within the confines of their groupings. Right? All the red line is the dotted line that they gonna cut you on. So they use eminent domain under their rights to salvage, using squatter rights to occupy. Because if you can't occupy it, you can't control it. So they get a representatives called nationals and citizen occupational rights to squat certain places. Because occupation is following the 9/10 rule of possession.
Yeah.
Possession being 9/10 of the law. That 1/10 is the only liberating factor. When the rightful owner returned, you got to surrender it. So they been running these games on us with they divide and conquer among race, religion, sex, gender, concepts, and ideologies, using propaganda warfare to make us fight each other. And that's the dumbest shit in the world to me. And we keep falling for it every day.
So, and you make a very, very powerful point. So let me ask you this, because, and either one of y'all can hit this one, but when it comes to a people establishing a sense of independence, so which in my mind equates freedom, when it comes to a people who are, to me, indigenous to this land, but it doesn't matter, but the people that create a form of independence on this land, what is it such a threat to where the occupational, I guess, security corporation soldiers for hire, i.e. the government's military, why is it that they always bomb or want to destroy any sort of small group of people who create a form of independence on this land, i.e. the MOVE movement in Philadelphia, Black Wall Street, et cetera, et cetera?
So we was at war. This first thing you got to remember. As long as we don't realize that we've been fighting the war for 500 years and that the war has evolved over time, we behind the curve. All that's warfare, right? They use that to keep us from rising up organized. And they also use it to make us not trust our leadership, right? So when the natural leaders rise, they override the natural leader with a manufactured leader. The Rothschilds said that when they need a hero, we'll provide them for them.
Yep.
Right? They never expect that the tribal order was still working where we raise chiefs no matter what the environment is to go out and find a solution to the problems that affect the community. The only problem we got right now is patriarchy, because all of the stuff that's causing all of our problems is patriarchal driven, hyper masculine war energy. Right? What's the counter to that? Bring back the divine feminine, that ocean Sweetwater energy. Turn your life war story into a love story and you live happily ever after. Just do it in the name of love.
Could you go back over that question one more time? What was the other part of the question?
Shoot. Well, the main thing was pretty much why is it that these race soldiers, or whatever you want to call these people who work for the corporation known as a U.S. or America, right? Why is it that they feel so threatened when a group of melanated people create a form of independence? So like with the MOVE movement in Philadelphia, how they bombed them, you know what I'm saying? They was minding their business, not bothering nobody. The Black Panther Party, you know what I'm saying? Or if you go to Black Wall Street, like why is it when a group of melanated people create a source or a movement of independence that they seem to be attacked militarily on this land?
Well, self-preservation is the precursor to autonomy. And when you have autonomy, that eliminates the jurisdiction that they have over you. So that's why they got to create a have and a have-nots in a dualistic paradox. They got to create a certain demographic of people to be at the bottom of the economic chain to where they're able to compensate for the lack thereof, to where they're consumers. So this is all connected to the patriarchal systems of capitalism, because the more that you got people divided, you can control them with their corporate systems. To where now, hey, the black woman making 100,000 a year, and the black man only making 50, and she ain't finna fuck with you because you ain't making enough money. So, like I said, the capitalistic system of patriarchy is what's causing the divide. So, like I said, you know, it's one of those things where they got to break us up and cater to their corporations in order for them to keep their systems going. Because if you eliminate the middleman, just like they did with Tory Lanez, anytime you cut out the middleman, they're going to come attack you. That means that you don't need them. Tory Lanez don't need the industry. Nipsey Hussle didn't need the industry. Young Dolph didn't need the industry. All these people were independent. Anytime that you're independent on anything, they're going to attack your enterprise.
Yeah. Now,
but look, there's something that you can be independent and still be a slave.
Oh yeah.
Still not be free.
Yeah.
But you can't be sovereign and autonomous and be anybody's subject.
Right.
Now, the first thing about independence is that's being separate from the family. You a single cell. A single cell is easier to crush than the whole organism.
That's facts.
Right? So when you understand they use certain words to undermine our efforts, like revolution. I don't want to go in no goddamn circle. I don't advocate no revolution. I advocate insurrection, uprisings, rebellions.
Yes, sir.
Guerrilla warfare.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Nat Turner, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, real warriors. Yeah. Hannibal Barker, Dirty Bookman. Let's call them out now. We're gonna call them. Let's call the big guns, man. We ain't gonna just call. Hey, I'm calling the big ones. Yes, sir.
Shaka Zulu, Stephen Biko.
Yeah.
The Mau.
Yeah. Ogunye, Shango, them. We calling all them energies, man, for real. Yeah, nah, this is dope. So, one of the things I wanted to get into too. So when we talk about all, especially with ties to the corporation, how does like the Social Security number play a role into this system? Like, because if I look at a Social Security number, to me in my mind, that's no different than if I have like any type of barcode or any type of product number on, any product, right? So what is the Social Security number? How does that tie into?
It's all connected. Well, you got the titles is connected to the CASHAPP numbers. The CASHAPP number is the Community Uniform Security Identification Procedure. So that identification procedure is acclimated to titles. These are titles that's connected to the corporation. So they're making money off your life. They're making money off your marriage. They're making money off your death. And it's because of the CASHAPP number. Because those CASHAPP numbers that's connected to your Social Security number, these are all bank accounts, right? You got millions of dollars in it. So I said, like, the corporation in itself, it has to fall because it was all built on fraud. Anything that's built on fraud and everything that's built on a synthetic system only has a temporal power.
Yeah, that's facts. It's because it's not real. It wasn't created through authenticity, through the real creation, process. And I think you look at even like in real time, BBLs, you know what I mean? Like, to me, that's like a sign of the ties with the system. Like, it's all about manufacturer, you know what I'm saying? Like fake-ish, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, but the real stuff, which is us, we've been kind of like dealing with being the imposters within the imposters, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people don't know that behind like enemy lines of the veil, that it was people who look like us that was really pulling the strings on a lot of this bullshit that we're looking at. When you talk about this whole entire
a lot of it, the buck stops at the feet of the dark black nobility. This
Right.
where the hidden ones, the unknown ones, right? They don't want to be known. They are moon priests. They want to remain anonymous. Let's all go back to the priest wars. All of this stuff is significant because as long as they can keep us socially, economically deprived and denied the right to live off the fat of the land, they can supply our needs. The easiest way to control people is to control their necessities, not their desires and their wants, their needs. Right? Like, we need soap. We used to make it. Now we rely on the store to produce it and have it on the shelf. Right? We used to go and have our own garden But now, because of convenience and it allows us to work in the system's factory outlets, that's the modern day plantations, and get the credits so we can go back and spend our monopoly money on manufactured goods that's been saturated with toxins in order to make us die, so we ain't never live old enough to get our full Social Security benefit, so that the Ponzi scheme can keep running to deteriorate the wealth of the people, and they be living off that wealth. You asked about the card, the Social Security card. Look at the name of the card. What are they securing? A social structure.
Yep.
So you got a card that's allowing you to build this house of cards called the social construct. Right? They use sociology as a means of controlling all of the areas of people activity. But you got to think like a god in order to rise your thinking above the subjugation of the system. But you can't think like a god when you worried about when your baby next meal gonna come. You got to get out and get it. Right? When you worried about if your mama lights go out, will her ventilator cut off? So you got to figure out how to make sure she's secure. You don't got time to be trying to figure out how do I reach my God mind from here? Right? You don't have that. They keep you preoccupied with nonsense. And your Social Security is just collecting the revenue that you generate.
Right.
They know how much money your labor produces based on BTUs, calorie burns per hour. If you do this job, we think that it's going to burn this many calories an hour, and at this much a calorie, this is how much that hourly wage should be. But when they attach a double release valve on it, you got on one side, you got inflation that's reducing the purchasing power. On the other side, you got taxation that's reducing the take-home pay. So you being doubly reduced on your principal, your labor. But constitutionally, you ain't supposed to tax the income at its source. So how is you taxing me on my labor when that's the source of my income? Right? Property taxes, that's belligerent to the tribes. As long as you can do the upkeep on the property, you supposed to be able to live there. And then you got competent heirs that desire to keep the upkeep. You can keep it for generations. But when you let it go to blight, you either gonna give it back to the forest, or somebody gonna come along and cultivate the territory. Right? That's the way it was before they came. You didn't have nothing called homelessness. Everybody had a home.
Right.
Right? It don't matter who you is, you find yourself out in the street, you look over at your man, I don't got nowhere to go, man. I'm going to Big Mama house. Where you going? I'm going to my nana house. Nobody was homeless. Wasn't nobody sleeping in cars and on the curb and behind liquor stores. Even though most of them, the pauper guys that refuse to take part in the illusion. So they'd rather take on all of the suffering required to ventilate the society from the bottom.
That's deep. Now, how does that kind of tie into, because I know we've all experienced it, when you see, like, anytime you see a small group or gathering of melanated people, it could be as small as 3 or 10 or 13 or 23 or 33. Then somehow, some way, you either get a Karen, you know what I'm saying, running up on them, or you got, you know what I mean, community patrol, or you know what I'm saying, or you got, for real though, you know what I'm saying, it's always got to be somebody that has some sort of concern when a small group of melanated people gather. How does that tie into
That's
what we're
social
talking
conditioning, going back to the sociology. That's social conditioning. Karen wouldn't have gave a damn about a flock of brothers being together if the news media didn't say that a flock of brothers being together is criminal activity. It's a threat. All Karen is that hen on the yard that keep all the other hens alert of the shit that's coming. She don't know what she doing. Right? She thinks she actually doing something that's good. Right? But she don't know that she gonna FAFO, right? Because she ain't scared to let the clan know somebody is at the door. Just a little yapper, a little ankle biter. She ain't really that dangerous. She just annoying, like a gnat or a mosquito.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody be mad at Karen. Don't be mad at Karen. Karen been conditioned by the system. Be mad at the system for conditioning Karen.
Yeah.
That's who you be mad at. The angry black woman. Don't be mad at her for being angry. She want her shit back. Be mad at the people that took her shit that frustrated her to the point of rage.
I know that's right.
That's who you be mad at. If you properly put the anger in its proper place, it make life so much easier. It's just more fluent when you flow.
And a lot of them be NPCs, though. They're energetically connected to the fact that they have to disrupt any type of amalgamation amongst, so-called black people, because when we get together, that's when we're able to start building sustainable, communities, bringing different ideologies together. Because just that in itself, and just that perspective in itself, it has the ability to manipulate their reality. So just don't see that.
And that goes really, really deep too, because you could speak to this, Brother B-Down, in regards to when we talk about how divisive and is strategically, a strategy for them to divide and conquer the black, infrastructure of the black home, the black family. So when we talk about a lot of the trauma, a lot of it's because a lot of us didn't grow up in a two-parent home like you did. So that's a blessing because it starts within the home in order to have, a strong foundation that we lead out into the community, then from the community to the culture. So why is it such a strategic target on making sure that we have the destruction of the black family? When I see on the internet, I hear all the hoopla and rah-rah about black males versus black females, all this bullshit, even though I know it's propaganda. Why is it such a necessary ploy or tactic for those people or parasites to make sure that they have some sort of cease and desist of black families, being together?
Well, when you
strong
destroy
families,
go ahead, Elder.
Strong families to create strong communities. Right. And the stronger the community is, the less the government shenanigans can blow by. So you weaken the family, so they so busy worrying about the family rift that they can't worry about the government takeover. It's just just a 3-card money trick. Slightly distract you just long enough for them to slide the other card in your face while you watching them. Right? You ever see a dude playing 3-card money and he won't shut the fuck up? Because he's fast talking you. He's keeping your mind off the flip of the card. So no matter what card he flipped, you won't get the right one because you didn't see it when he switched the card. In your face, behind your back. Go ahead, Bidell.
But yeah, the reason they destroy the nucleus of the black family is because you're going to create balanced individuals. That's what ISIS Rael is, being able to balance and connect with source. So this is why a lot of people, when they come from broken backgrounds or whatever, that leads them to be, mentally fractured and spiritually broken. And a lot of times that's connected to a form of trauma. So, a great majority of us, a great majority of the master teachers in the past, they came from trauma. But, a lot of times, like I said, when you already create individuals in a balanced home, that's going to lend it a likelihood to where you cannot, create psychological inducement that is connected to their system. You cannot indoctrinate those people. It's going to be very hard to. So when you do that in the form of separatism, you can easily control people. So they don't want balanced individuals because, you get people like me, you get people, what I'm saying? Like they don't want that. They don't want balanced individuals because, like I said, it's one of those things where the system in itself placates to your emotions. And your emotions is going to deceive you every time. A motherfucker will tell you that the sky's red if the color blue hurts their feelings because they're not operating in logic. That means that your emotions have to be in balance with the logic, and that comes from the household. And you can that can be cultivated by the mother and the father because the man is the law and the woman's the order, and the woman gets the order through the man. You know what I'm saying? Because if you really look at in ancient matriarchal civilizations during that time period, you know, it's not about the woman being above the man. You know, the woman is the one that's giving the orders, and the man is laying down the law. So they both work in tandem like a machine in a factory. She's the oil to the machine.
Yeah,
right?
It's balance.
Yeah.
I mean, even when we talk about spirituality, like the concept of Ifa, you know, the Babalawo cannot translate a message without the Odu, which is the feminine aspect of the communication process. So in those two lines of divination, you have the patriarchal or the masculine is, you know, controlling the actual process, but then the feminine is giving the message, is giving the information, the insight, which is just like when we talk about life, the feminine is creating, you know, bringing forth the creation of life. So it's like, that's a real thing. And I feel like that's where this thing like healing, where we got to do a lot of work with the healing, because now with this level of frequency, you know, elevating and the rise of consciousness and the solar flares coming in, that's really like taking the frequencies of everything to a much higher level. How important is it for us to do like the inner work, the shadow work, or whatever work is required for us to be able to kind of get our energy to where we can raise it to the vibration that is needed for us to kind of ascend to this fifth dimension, you know, ascension?
Well, like I said, anytime you don't heal, you're going to weaponize whatever energy that you're going to tap into. You're going to use it for malicious purposes. So it's kind of like the same thing as when a superhero get his powers. You notice in the superhero movies, you got the villain. Every time he was able to galvanize a big, you know, an influx of power, he manipulated it. He used it for evil. So the same thing takes place as far as like, you know, spirituality. You're going to weaponize the spirituality if you're not healed. You're going to become a villain. You're going to become a villain to your people. This is the black nobility. People like that. You got people behind the curtains who have all this power, who's controlling the European on the surface to overthrow the ones that's indigenous to the land. So that's why I said, as far as like, you know, just healing in itself is, that's really, you know, is one of those things where, you know, people don't want to tap into self-realization because they fear their own shortcomings. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to look at it in the mirror because it becomes a reflection about what's going on with the afflictions that's, you know, taking place in their life. So it's like I said, you know, everything that you want in life is on the other side of fear. So once you're able to face the fear, that's when you're able to tap into your true godhood.
And now how does that relate to, what is it, like the Zohar body? What's the name of the two bodies that you mentioned?
Yeah, I call it, right now, like I said, since we're tether connected to the simulation and tether connected to the Moonbar emotions, that is what I call the gematria body. The gematria body is controlled by the simulation. But when I'm talking about the Zohar body, that's just a different nomenclature title talking about Christ consciousness, your God self, your higher self, your oversoul.
I got you.
Yep.
That's what's up. So,
I'm gonna tell you this about that self work, that inner work. You're gonna do it one way or another.
I know that's right.
If you do it intentionally, it's no ways as hard as if you do it resisting. If you deliberately do it, you make it a lot easier and it goes by a lot quicker. But if you try to run from it, you got spiritual ass whooping coming along with you, still gonna get this work.
Yeah.
That's facts. I be trying to tell people that, boy, like for real, man. Like you gotta listen, boy. Cause we all getting them signs. I know I'm not the only one getting them messages. Y'all, we getting these messages, man. We gotta listen.
You see 555-333-222, and you've been ignoring the message the whole time. Them signals, they've been telling you, hey, your woman cheating on you, bro. That's what the ancestors telling you. You know, yes, but you choose to ignore it because, like I said, your emotions is going to deceive you every time. That's why I said it has to be in balance with the logic, because that's where spiritual discernment takes place.
Your emotions is a navigation system.
Yeah.
But you gotta first calibrate your navigation system in order for you to properly be able to read your gauges. They call it pushing your own buttons.
Yes, sir.
The first thing you need to determine is if your emotion or response is in context or out of context with the event you face with. If it's out of context, that means there's something wrong with you somewhere that you need to work on.
Yes.
Right? If you're getting angry where you should be laughing, your humorous bone is off. You gotta go get your funny bone fixed. Right? So you go watch comedy. balance that energy out, right? But if you, let's say you think something funny when it's supposed to be sad, right? You laughing at the funeral. Now everybody mad at you because they think you was making mockery of their loved one laying in that box. But you just really, I wasn't laughing like that. I was going through my grief, right? But the emotion was out of context because somewhere your grief got undermined. You wasn't allowed to grieve something as a child, then they gave you comedy in this place. Your goldfish died, you start crying, and your daddy tickled you until you stopped. You never grieved your goldfish. Now every time you go into the grief mode, it's time you can't help but laugh. You got the giggle sound. Right? Unhealed trauma. So your emotions got to be in context with the event. And if it's in context, that means you write whatever the thought was that you built up to that emotion. Go back over what you was thinking right before you got that emotion. If it's the joy emotion, what was you thinking about before this experience brought joy to the forefront? I was thinking about living my best life. Okay, so you go in the right direction for living your best life because it gave you a joy response. Right? Fear response. What was I thinking about? Oh, I was going down that. Oh yeah, they got that big ass dog. I ain't going down that street. Emotional context. Once you calibrate your emotions to read you correctly, and you can read it correctly, it becomes a navigation system for the 3D realm to walk you around all of the problems.
Yes, sir.
It becomes a protector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That reminds me of the movie.
Emotions, when their emotions is erratic, and that's where you get that situation what B. Dale was describing, because they haven't gained that control of the emotional body yet. So the emotions is dragging their ass around like a race car with no driver, and they just stuck in the passenger seat.
Listen, bruh, when you said that, I had a flashback to the now it's two moments, but the movie The Joker, the one with Joaquin Phoenix, the first one, not the one with the one that just came out, but man, there's a part where he was in the movie. He was in there, and the sister had her son was on the bus. They was on the bus, and like the son was looking back at him. He'll make funny faces. He was playing with the little boy, but the sister didn't like it because he looked kind of different. He looked off or whatever. So then the little boy started laughing because he thought it was funny. So the dude, he had a condition. The Joker had a condition to where he would laugh uncontrollably when he couldn't control his emotions, right? So the lady was ready to spaz on him because she thought, he was crazy. But it reminded me of like what you were just saying. But then it reminded me of the 607 interview too, because if you don't know how to control those emotions, they can take control, and then now it's emotion. So then now you're looking at it, what could be a real problem. So that's deep, like for real. That's real.
Yeah, deep. A lot of times, like I said, man, it really depends on certain people's backgrounds, because like I said, when you have a balanced energy, an unbalanced individual has their only defense mechanism is to attack. That's the only defense mechanism that they have, because you become a threat. It sends a neurological notification to the threat detection system in the brain, telling them like, oh, this person's attacking me, when they really not.
Right.
So